Hey everyone, this is Mr. Cash. We're going to go over part two of Brown Girl Dreaming. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to take a look at that together. All right, so if we come over here, I'm just going to make this bigger so it kind of fits the screen. Now, if you remember from before, uh, Brown Girl Dreaming is a memoir, which means it's like an autobiography, but instead of being about a person's whole life, it's just about part of their life. And this one is told in verse or in poetry. So in poetry, we use verses. Okay. So we went through the background. Remember, she moved from South Carolina to Brooklyn. Okay. She now lives in Brooklyn, New York. Okay. We read Brooklyn Rain together, and we read Another Way together, and we read Gifted, and we read Sometimes. Now, if you remember in Sometimes, this one was the poem where she talks about how sometimes she lies about her father and where her father is because her father is not dead and her father is not coming back. Okay, her father is just gone. Okay, but it's clear that she is making up stories, as her sister says. We're going to talk a little bit more about her making up stories here in this poem called Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert has moved to New York City. I hear him taking the stairs two at a time, and then he's at our door knocking loud until our mother opens it. Curlers in her hair, robe pulled closed, whispering, "It's almost midnight. Don't you wake my children." But we're already awake, all four of us smiling and jumping around. My uncle, "What'd you bring us?" Our mama shushes us, says, "It's too late for presents and the like, but we want presents and the like." And she too is smiling now, happy to see her baby brother who lives all the way over in Far Rockaway, where the ocean is right there if you look out your window. Robert opens his hands to reveal a pair of silver earrings, says to my sister, "This is a gift for how smart you are." I want to be smart like Dell. I want someone to hand me silver and gold just because my brain clicks into thinking whenever I need it. It needs to, but I'm not smart like Dell. So I watch her press the silver moons into her ears. I say, "I know a girl 10 times smarter than her. She gets diamonds every time she gets 100 on a test." And Robert looks at me, his dark eyes smiling, asks, "Is that something you made up or something real?" In my own head, it's as real as anything. In my head, all kinds of people are doing all kinds of things. I want to tell him this, that the world we're living in right here in Brownsville isn't the only place. But now my brothers are asking, "What'd you bring me?" And my uncle is pulling gifts from his pockets. From his leather briefcase, from inside his socks, he hands my mother a record, a small 45, James Brown, who none of us like because he screams when he sings. But my mother puts it on the record player turned way down low, and then even us kids are dancing around. Robert showing us the steps he learned at the Far Rockaway parties. His feet are magic, and we all try to slide across the floor like he does. Our own feet again and again betraying us. "Teach us, Robert," we keep saying. "Teach us." So, James Brown lived from 1933 to 2006, so he's dead now. He was an American singer and dancer and founding father of funk music. He's often referred to as the godfather of soul. So, when he would sing, he would lots of times make kind of crazy scream sounds, like, "Ow!" That kind of thing, while he was singing. All right, the next poem is called Wishes. When he takes us to the park, Uncle Robert tells us if you catch a dandelion puff, you can make a wish. Anything you want will come true, he says as we chase the feathery wishes around swings, beneath sliding boards, until we can hold them in our hands, close our eyes tight, whisper our dream, then set it floating out into the universe, hoping our uncle is telling the truth, hoping each thing we wish for will one day come true. So I know I make connections to that each time I read this poem. I know that there are lots of things that I learned when I was a kid, things that you do to make wishes. Okay. I bet you guys have some things that you can connect to in that poem, ways that you make wishes. Okay. In this poem, we're talking about Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert shows up in a bunch of these poems because Uncle Robert's kind of an important character, and we'll get into that. Okay. So, what we know so far is that Uncle Robert has just moved to New York, right? He moved to New York City, and now he gets to spend time with them. And you can tell from this poem that they're all jumping and smiling and awake, that they're pretty excited to see Robert. Okay, and I've got this funny feeling that it's not just because he brings us them presents. Okay, not just because he brings them presents. So let's look at believing. The stories start like this. Jack and Jill went up a hill. My uncle sings. I went up a hill yesterday. I say, what hill? In the park. What park? Halsey Park. Who was with you? Nobody. But you're not allowed to go to the park without anyone. I just did. Maybe you dreamed it. My uncle says, no, I really went. And my uncle likes the stories I'm making up. Along came a spider that sat down beside her. I got bit by a spider, I say. When? The other day. Where? Right on my foot. Show us. It's gone now. But my mother accuses me of lying. If you lie, she says, one day you'll steal. I won't steal. It's hard to understand how one leads to the other, how stories could ever make us criminals. It's hard to understand the way my brain works, so different from everyone around me, how each new story I'm told becomes a thing that happens in some other way to me. Keep making up stories, my uncle says. You're lying, my mother says. Maybe the truth is somewhere in between all that I'm told and memory. Okay, so those are the poems for today. Okay, these are telling us something about Jacqueline Woodson. Okay, so let's remember that Jacqueline Woodson is the author of this book. Okay, the book is called Brown Girl Dreaming, and these are pieces of the book. Each one of these poems comes from the book. Okay, these are all pieces of her book, and we are learning information about Jacqueline through these poems, what kind of character she is, and what things she likes, what kinds of things she does, why she does the things that she does. And different people have different reactions to the kind of character that she is. Okay, so I want you guys to think about this passage. I want you to think about the different poems that were in there. We didn't really get a chance to talk about, we talked about Brooklyn Rain in Another Way and Gifted. We didn't really get a chance to talk about Sometimes, okay, in our last class. So we're going to start with Sometimes, with Uncle Robert, with the blowing of the dandelion here in Believing. Nope, in Wishes. Sorry, in Wishes. And then we'll talk about the poem Believing as well. So what I'm asking you guys to do tonight after you're finished watching this video is to send me 2 questions. Okay, I'm going to have an assignment in um, Schoology where you can input those 2 questions that you have. If I pick your question, remember you get the badge for helping us to plan our lesson. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here, and that's the video for today. I hope you guys have a great night, and I look forward to our discussion tomorrow in class.